Yep, Labor's key climate change policy is officially good to go.
The safeguard mechanism is the vehicle to achieve our commitment for 43% reduction by 2030.
So what are the specs of said vehicle? Basically, it'll slap an emissions cap on Australia's 215 biggest polluters, responsible for 28% of our total emissions. Those companies will then be required to cut or offset their emissions by 4.9% a year till 2030. To sweeten the deal, the government will also tip in a combined $1 billion to smooth the transition and shore up sovereign capacity.
We have a responsibility to participate and to achieve real solutions, to achieve real outcomes, to protect our manufacturers, to grow our economy while we're dealing with emissions reduction.
But it's been a bumpy road. The Coalition's staunch opposition forced Labor into the arms of the Greens, and I, for one, detected some tension.
Negotiating with Labor is like negotiating with the political wing of the coal and gas corporations.
The biggest bee in their bonnet? Labor leaving the door ajar for new fossil fuel projects.
As the UN Secretary-General has said, if we're to get the climate crisis under control, we have to stop opening coal and gas mines. And if any new coal or gas project opens from here on in, it will be squarely on Labor's shoulders.
But the PM reckons the perfect is the enemy of the good, and both are better than another lost decade.
We can't afford to continue to engage in conflict in this place. We need to act on climate change.
So now we've finally got an emissions reduction policy, what's the next step in our Planet Earth survival guide?
Saul Griffith was Joe Biden's climate advisor, and he's just written a quarterly essay about Australia's big switch to clean energy. So we'll get to your essay in just a minute, but will this policy actually work, and will it get us to where the government says we need to be?
It's reasonably good climate policy. It's sort of the opposite of what America did. So it almost exclusively focuses on the industrial sector, a little bit on manufacturing, and really most of the emissions that it eliminates are destined for export. So it's good, but we need something even more ambitious domestically for our residential buildings, our households, for our commercial sector, our small businesses, and for our transportation sector. So my concern is that the Australian public might think this is enough. It's not enough, it won't hit our climate targets, and we need to address our domestic economy emissions with something even more ambitious.
Lots of people care about climate change, but also those eye-watering power prices. So what do we need to be doing to bring those down while also bringing our emissions down?
Actually, we now have a recipe for decarbonising households that will also lower your household energy bills. So that's electrification. And if you electrify your car, electrify your water heater, electrify your house, it does cost you $10,000 for the solar installation today, but you will make all of that investment back in the next 3 or 4 years and save money every year after that. What we really need, if we were to have world-class climate ambition, the Australian government would be figuring out how to help every single Australian household afford those upfront costs so that we can lock in savings for Australian households over the coming 2 decades, and we can lock in emission reductions.
So I understand where you are in Coaldale. You're trying to electrify the whole postcode. How exactly is that working?
I think if we're all honest about the world, no one yet, like barely a single household, has figured out how to eliminate all of their emissions. So we're running a campaign in postcode 2515, and that involves a lot of education, helping people figure out what the combinations are, and we're taking a little bit of risk on the remaining technologies to make this work, namely the community batteries, the energy management systems, and working with the local energy company to make sure we can balance the whole system.
Saul, in your quarterly essay, you talk about the electrical grid. It's almost like the way Yoda talks about the Force, you know? It's like this vast energy field that connects all things. Actually, there's no real question. I just wanted to brag that I read the quarterly essay. But do we need to kind of change our philosophy when it comes to energy?
I think the easy way to answer that is we've had 100 years of writing the rules of the road, our energy regulations, our climate policy for a fossil-fueled world, and we now very, very quickly, like in a few years, need to rewrite the rules of our energy system for mass electrification. This is an extraordinary thing. The largest machine ever built in Australia is our electricity network. So given that that's going to do the heavy lifting in our decarbonisation, now's the time to invest in that and really we've got to emphasise what Australia has to win here. The economics of the energy transition are better for Australia than any other country. I do this work in the US and Europe as well, but Australia gets to go first. And that means that we get to save money in all of our households and small businesses first. And what we need is the government to have a full-throated, all-sector decarbonisation and climate policy that includes electrification.
Sam, did you read my quarterly essay as well, or did you just...
No, the subscription started after your one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
You've written one, have you?
Yeah, a couple, actually.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I'll get someone to have a look for them.
That's your homework, Sam.
Thanks, mate.
Saul, thank you so much for your time tonight.
All right, no problem. See you guys.